Dallas, thank you so much for doing this. And what runs through your mind when you see the ugly mug of Jay Rosehill, your former player?
Well, you know what? I was just thinking about you, Rosie, the other night when I saw Cassidy start his fourth line. And I always hate when people number the lines, but I was thinking back to the Marley days when we used to start you and Boycer and Greg Scott, and you guys would wreak havoc on that first shift and always give us momentum. So it's great to see your beautiful mug, not that ugly one.
Yeah, I remember those days. Those were fun days playing some of my favorites, Dally, and being coached by you was nothing short of awesome, man. It was some good years for sure, and it was good to see you back in the NHL there with the Ducks, and now to see you on the panel, all suited up, looking good. How's that been for you experience-wise?
You know what? It's been great. It's obviously very different than, being interviewed as a coach. You can kind of actually tell the truth. As a coach, you're really guarded. You're not going to say a whole bunch. But I've really enjoyed it. I think those guys on that panel, Jen Botterill as well, they're an amazing team. And I go back with BX a bit. Obviously, I know Elliot, I know Ron, I know David Amber, Kelly. So it's been a really great experience, and it's fun too to be able to go back and forth a little bit with Kevin.
So we're going to get to the Maple Leafs story, but I got to get you your perspective off the top. Of course, you were part of the whole process this season and being in the mix for Connor Bedard. He ends up in Chicago. What was your reaction? You see Chicago come on that screen.
Man, I was sad. I really wanted the Ducks to win it. I am a massive fan of the Samueli family. Henry, Susan, their daughter Jillian. They are big givers in our community. They're like A+ ownership. They're just there to support you. And I've got a really great relationship with them. And for what they're doing in our community in Southern California, man, I wanted that first pick for them. So I was sad, but in the same breath, I'm extremely tight with Luke Richardson. He was my D partner in junior. I was in his wedding party. Derek King, you remember Rosie, was a coach with the Marlies, another guy that I'm extremely close with. So for them to get an A+ player like that, and I don't know Connor Bedard, but boy, is he in good hands with those two men, being able to guide him once he comes into the league.
For sure. Dally, before we get onto the current Maple Leafs right now, I remember back when we were both in Toronto, you were coaching on the Marlies, having lots of success, and lo and behold, Ron Wilson gets fired up with the Maple Leafs, the big club, and a lot of rumors, a lot of buzz. I think they were seriously contemplating hiring you for that job. Instead, they went with Randy Carlyle, which obviously didn't work out, but I remember that very vividly, thinking that I really wanted you to have that shot with the Maple Leafs. I enjoyed playing for you. I thought you had all the mixtures of what it needs to be coached in that market. What was it like for you going through that, and how close did they talk to you about it or anything? And it still bugs me to this day that we didn't get to see how that would have panned out.
Well, I won't lie. I hated seeing Ron going through what he was going through. And it's interesting looking back. I can pinpoint the Leafs' demise that year, and we don't need to get into it totally right now, to a rookie party. And they never recovered from the rookie party. They lost a bunch in a row, and then Ron got let go. And of course, at the time, man, you really think you're ready. I believe that I was. Brian Burke, who's a dear friend to this day, he was obviously my boss. And when they made the decision, it was really simple. He just told me that you're going to thank me one day for not putting you in this position. This is a super big job with super large challenges. You're just getting started in your coaching career, and I really don't want you to start here. Now, I'm not sure there's any great place to start your coaching career, but I do believe Brian was right. I'm not sure I was quite ready for that. I had great mentorship there, right? I had worked for Paul Maurice. I knew Randy well. He's still a really good friend to this day. I got to watch Ron Wilson work. There was a number of GMs that came through at that time. So I'm a big believer in being a fly on the wall. You can learn a whole lot by listening first. And so I am forever grateful of my 8 years in Toronto.
So Dallas, what's going to mind, do you think, right now of Sheldon Keefe? And how stunned are you that we're sitting here like a week and a half after this team finally wins a playoff series in 19 years? Their backs are against the wall, 0-3 in this series.
Well, I'm stunned that they haven't won a game, because I do believe they should have one under their belt for sure. We could fumble around with a second one. I know there's the chatter out there of, what's Keefe going to do, and if they go down 4 straight, is he on the line, or Dubas, and all this stuff. And the thing that I know about Sheldon Keefe is he's going to make whatever adjustment that he's going to make, whether it be lineup wise or systematic wise or motivational wise, inspiration wise, that's best for his team. And nobody knows that team and that locker room better than him. I can guarantee you that. So I would really trust Sheldon. He's going to do what's right for his team, not what's right for him individually. The other thing for me is like, when you get to games like this, hey, Sheldon's going to coach the game, but this is on the players now. Like, you've got it. Like, Sheldon Keefe is not going to go out there and win a puck battle. He's not going to go get into the blue paint. He's not going to go get into the goalie's eyes. He's not going to score on a point blank shot. He's not going to go draw a penalty. He's not going to go kill a penalty. And so, like, this is why players get paid the big bucks, and especially your top players. This is where your top players have to rise up and play to their full potential.
So speaking of that, after watching the first 3 games of this series and how they went down, what do you think is the formula? Obviously, they got a mountain to climb ahead of them, but there is potential to get something done here and do something special. What do you think the formula, or what do you want to see watching the next game here to see them try to get this thing back on track?
Well, first of all, get to a neutral mindset. And what I mean by that is, if any of these players, I don't pick one of them, if they are back in game 3 or game 2 or still wallowing in, oh man, we're down 3-0, they're done. It's over. And they've got to take the mindset of whether they are down 3-0, up 3-0, up 2-1, down 2-1, whatever it is, that they would be coming into this game as a must win. I don't care if game 1 must win, game 2 must win, game 3. You have to take these games in a singular focus. So that's the first thing for me is, don't worry about what's happened. Worry about, like, right now, what do you need to do in this moment? The second thing I'd be doing if I was one of these players is really, and I mean like intestinally, recalling my best game individually. What did that look like? What did that feel like? How did I go about my business? And then the third thing is that when that puck drops, it's on. And everybody talks about a 60-minute game, right? Oh, we gotta play a 60-minute game. Those players, there's only one guy that's got to play 60 minutes, and that's the goalie. Everybody else, Austin Matthews, don't give us 60. Give us your best 23. Marner, give us your best 24. Giordano, give us your best 10 minutes. Like, I don't care how many minutes you play. Give us your best. So the players don't have to play 60 minutes here. They just got to roll out whatever they're going to roll out. And if they can just focus on that, getting to a really neutral mindset, really recalling and having a belief in their best game. And then once they're done singing the national anthems and that puck goes down, that, hey, it's on.
I'm just curious to get your perspective as well, even from when you started coaching to now, just how you motivate a player and like how different players are now than they are wound maybe 15 years ago, where you look at game 3 and it goes to that question, don't even need to watch the game tape. Like, not many players showed up. David Camp, Sam Lafferty, Schenner, there's a couple guys, but the core 4, nowhere to be found. How would a coach handle that, like post game in the video? Like, I don't think we're at a point where you can rip anybody. I think they should pretty much know. But I just wonder from a motivation standpoint how you get the best out of your players. Maybe that's the age-old question in this league, right?
Yeah, the ripping part of it, there's times for it, but I think your relationship with the player comes first. It's the old, they're not going to care how much you know until they know how much you care. I've always believed that as a coach since day one. I remembered it as a player. The coaches that I knew really cared about me. You're going to listen more. You're going to battle more. All of those things. And then if they did get into you about something, it was just because they were trying to make you better. It wasn't something else. So the big thing now is. And I know people use the word motivation. I just used it earlier, but I followed it up with what is really matters. As a coach, you have to inspire your players, and motivation lasts it's very short, right? Like, might be able to walk in and say a few things to you before a game, but 10-15 minutes later, it's probably lost. I think inspiration it is a really big deal, and you can find inspiration all over the place. You can find inspiration through stories and experiences that have nothing to do with hockey. You can find inspiration by a guy that's maybe playing way above his pay grade in your lineup. You can find inspiration by past teams that have won big games, or taken out teams 4 straight, or won championships when they've been down. So there's lots of different ways to go with the inspiration part, but inspiring people lasts much, much longer than going in and trying to motivate them.
We know what they need to do. And I mean, it's when the rubber hits the road here tomorrow, all of that preparation and all that years long work is it's over, and it's time to just go. So we want to hear from you. You got a prediction? Are these Leafs going to pull one off here on Wednesday, or you think they're going to show up?
I do. I said it yesterday to the guys when we were talking in the back on the panel. Like, as much as, hey, I get that it's 3-0, but I really believe that the Leafs are going to win a game here. And I don't mean that they're going to win a game and then go down and lose 4-1. I mean, they're going to win a game, and then it starts that whole mental go back and forth, right? They go in, they win this game. Now they're heading back home. And then the Florida Panthers are like, oh man, we missed putting them out there. Now we've got to go into their building and win. And then now you're at home and you win at home. And now the Florida Panthers are going, oh, geez, now we had them at 3-0. Like, they literally have to go out and win a game. But their biggest challenge is going to be to go out there and play freely. Like, I thought on that overtime the other night, man, did they look tight coming out. Yeah. Like, they are just squeezing it. And that's all mental, right? Like, everything that's going on right now is mental. They haven't lost their skill set. They're suddenly not in bad shape, right? Like, they haven't changed their skates. They didn't change their pattern on their stick. Everything's the same. The thing that is different right now is their brains, and they just need to readjust their steering wheels just a little bit.
Just bizarre that they finally get over that hump in the first round. You think it's going to be an uplifting moment, back to square one. We're having that conversation where they can't push through in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but so be it. You brought the heat, doing fantastic work on the panel. Really, really appreciate your time today, Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going to say one more thing. I said to a guy, I was in a line getting a protein smoothie yesterday, and this guy recognized me, started talking to me about the Leafs, and he's going on and all this stuff. And I just looked down and I said, hey, can I just give you one thing to think about? Like, the team that they're playing just took down the best team ever in the history of the NHL in the regular season. And that team has a bunch of really good players. And they have a really great coach and a GM that's done a hell of a job putting the team together. They want to win the Stanley Cup just as bad. And people forget that there's this other team over there, and they're equally motivated. But that's the challenge in pro sports, and especially the NHL, that you just got to be 1% better than that group on the other side.